Hey everybody, welcome back to Sergeant's Talk TV. I'm Big Mike.
I think I'm normal sized Jason if I'm in
That's
the
right.
right place.
And Jason is done with gallivanting our whole Midwest. Okay, he's back on the homestead. I'm
For
pretty
now.
sure you worked just as hard on the trip as you did when you're at home.
Yeah, so we have a problem over here at White Rock Homestead. We don't know how to vacation, evidently. All we know is how to go to a different state to do more work.
That's right.
And
And I was going, man. I mean, because it was once you guys pulled into River Camp, you were busy from start to end.
yeah, well, so what we didn't pay attention to, because being retired and living on the homestead, like we don't wear watches, the day of the week means nothing to us. We didn't realize it was Labor Day weekend pulling in.
Yeah,
And we're like, okay, we had a site reserved. That wasn't an issue. The thing was that River Camp every year for Memorial Day and Labor Day, there's a big party. We do horseshoe tournaments, we do cooking, we do all this stuff. We didn't realize it was going to be that. So we got jumped right into, hey, it's party time, and we're like, well, guys, time out. We have to make this camper livable first. Uh, and then the real fun part was it took us 4 days because of all the activities, everyone wanting to visit, and everything going on before we could even go to town to get groceries.
right.
So luckily, everybody at River Camp loves us, and they kept us fed for 4 days because that was the soonest we could get to town and get food.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I was like, oh, but then yeah, it was hot on. Like we had to get that camper ready because we needed to stay in it. So
I'm
we kind
guessing
of
that's congratulations on the new grandbaby.
thank you, appreciate you guys. Yeah, he's doing great. Him and mom are home and um, getting back to as normal as you can with a newborn and a toddler running around your house. Uh,
Yeah.
but took a little extra trip, and sorry guys about last week. I appreciate you, brother, for taking this lovely task on and explaining to everybody what was going on. Because yeah, that was a last minute. We were really hoping that she was going to give birth, but hey, it's childbirth. You can't plan this.
Yeah.
And when you do, here's the wrench. It's getting thrown in with about four more. So um, luckily, we were only 2.5 hours away. So it was kind of like rearranged a few plans that we had for Ohio and zipped back up there. And
Right.
uh,
Hey, so tonight we're going to be it's story time. Okay. And we did post the link at the top if you want to come up and tell us an event or anything that you did while you were in the service, or what a loved one did, or why your loved one is a hero, because we have a lot of them out there. We'd like to hear from you. So please come up and talk to us. In the meantime, we will be talking and telling a few stories of our own. Okay. So before we do that, let's say hello to everybody in the chat. There's um, Brian, and Brenda Hulk. Welcome in.
and I'm sure Colin's right there with him too.
Yeah.
We got,
There's Debbie Droth.
hey, Debbie. We've got Rebecca Touched by Yarn. Appreciate you. I'm sure Ronald might be listening in the background.
There's our channel's law enforcement. Denise McDonald, welcome in, my friend.
We sure need law enforcement, evidently.
Yeah.
Um,
There's Anna Bohr at Good Enough Homestead. Welcome in.
Good to
Glad
see
to
you,
see
Robin.
you in here. And there is our favorite female Marine, Dawn, over at our
Absolutely.
farmstead.
Hopefully she's not getting flooded out because it's been a little wet in our neck of the woods the last couple
Dude, that
days.
storm rolled through here, and I mean the big pecan tree was just pushing over. All the weeds were laying down, and then it just started pouring. And as fast as it came in, it was gone. And then we lost power.
We're
Then we
still
lost
getting
power. So
Oh, really? So we never lost power. I did put a couple backups in place just in case because they were calling for it to be pretty severe. But I'd actually decided in one of my more genius moments to do a town run, um, thinking, hey, it's not raining as bad as they said it would. And well, I was about 30 seconds too late of filling that last gas can to get back in my truck dry. But I didn't get back in the truck dry.
Yeah.
And it come down. I bet there was 6 inches of standing water on the roads.
Yeah.
And we're
There's Judy
still,
Herman.
hey, Judy.
Ray Castile saying congratulations, Grandpa.
Thank you, Ray.
Was it a grandson?
It was. Yep.
Oh, okay.
So that's grandbaby number 6 for us.
All right.
And that makes 1, 2, 3. That's 4. Yep, 4 boys and 2 girls right now.
It done washed out. And there's Pappy Smurf.
Hey, Dave. Good to see you.
There's half-assed and ready.
All right. It's better than being half-assed not ready.
Yeah.
I guess.
So we got 22 people in here. I'm at the bottom of the chat, which doesn't happen too often.
Oh, there's Max showing up. Jason McCullough right there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Judy.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
All
definitely
right.
excited having another grandbaby. That's always, like, it's weird sometimes still because I feel like I'm way, way too young to have grandchildren.
Yeah.
But that is the price you pay of having children very young.
Yeah.
So it kind of comes with the territory to have it. But oh man, what I felt blessed every time one of my children were born.
Yeah.
Like, it's just that's God's gift, right? It's a miracle coming that you're bringing another human in. But I tell you, it hits way different when it's a grandkid.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was. I'm glad, like I said, that we had to move some things around, but we got to meet him, hold him, and hug on him for a little bit, and we get to go back in November and see him again when his mama gets married.
All right. So there is Jay Oliver. Welcome in, brother.
Welcome
And
in.
there's Lynn the Farm Okie.
Good to see you, Lynn.
All right. Grandkids are great. You can spoil them and send them home.
Yeah. I mean, that works really well when you live close enough to do that.
Yeah.
But in our case well, it is nice. Like we were able to do that at our son's house in Ohio because we had the camper to retreat to. So it was like we could wind the grandkids up, do all that, feed them the extra sugar and then send them in the house so they could go to bed. And then we could go to the camper and be like, we didn't hear anything. I don't know what you're talking about. They were perfect.
Wow. He's got 8. Happy Smurf's got 8 grandchildren.
Nice.
We have, how many do we have? Huh? We got 5.
Yes, 7.
Oh, and we got 7. We got 7.
Hey, brother Troy Sutton making it in.
Hey, Troy, how you doing? Tom's got 4.
Well, yeah, but Dawn and them are at 4 right now, but they have the potential of like 40 with like 10 kids. So,
wow. Angie and Tony's got 10 grandchildren. Anybody need a few? Well, I'm going to tell you, if you get one more, you can have a football team. But right now, you have 9 baseball players and 1 designated hitter.
oh, what happened? I think I hit a button and it went back. Oh wow, Judy Herman, 17 grandchildren.
Ding, 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 ding. You are the winner. I never understood when I was in the Army. I mean, when I was younger in the Army, I'd have sergeants that would have 7 and 8 kids. And I asked myself, I said, how do you have that many kids? He goes, a lot of deployments.
Well, and that was a crazy part. So it's actually funny. Tara and I were having some conversation, the other night, just kind of random, and of course we do spend a lot of time talking about my time in the service because we weren't together. Like she doesn't know, and then there's certain things that'll trigger new memories, and I'll tell her about a new story, and but some of those misnomers that people are like, oh well. That's why everyone in the military has all these kids because, you get paid more for your wife and then you get all this extra money for your kids.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
No.
Like
it's a flat rate.
The guy that's married with a wife and no kids gets the same amount as the guy married with a wife and 10 kids.
Yeah.
That's the same paycheck. I mean, it's based on rank, but, your benefits are the same.
How you doing, Donna? Welcome in. There's the Moose Barbecue and Outdoor Adventures.
Nice.
Glad you're here.
Oh, I got to behave myself now.
What's that?
My sergeant major's in here.
She must be talking about me.
I know she is. It ain't me.
Oh, man. So, all right, we got 34 people in here now.
Nice.
Hey, I was thinking this over when I made the thumbnail. And I know that in my military career, I have deployed to Macedonia. We built a base camp there. I've deployed to Panama. Back when Noriega was acting like an ass down there. I was with the 5th Infantry Division out of Fort Polk. I know I went to Bosnia twice, deployed to Bosnia twice. I deployed to Turkey to feed the Kurds when Saddam gassed all the Kurds in the northern part of Iraq, and they all scurried up into the mountains. And that was a joint task force with 10th Special Forces, the Brits, the U.S., and the Turkish army up there. I've been to Desert Storm, went back for the no-fly zone mission there. I did deploy to Israel with a chemical detection team when they were getting hit. I deployed to Poland when they became part of NATO. And I still ended up with only 2 children. So you can't use deployment as an excuse. Okay.
Well, that's what I always loved the phrase when, because my first wife and I were super young, having, 4 children. We both were 22 years old when our 4th child was born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. By 22, we had all 4 born. And so, well, I take that back, actually. No. So, 04, we were 20. Yeah, we were 22. We turned 23 that year. So yeah, you're going through Walmart or the commissary, getting groceries, right? And you got 2 carts because, hey, you got 2 kids in one cart, 2 kids in another, pushing them around, and we're always like, oh, you guys adopted, or, oh, you're babysitting. And we're like, yeah, no, they're like, well, you're too young to have 1, let alone 4. And I was like, well, I got 4 proofs that you're wrong. And so then we stumbled in. I can't remember. We were shopping at a store the one day, and this older couple's in front of us. And of course, they're Googling over the cut. They were like, they could have been my grandparents at that point. They were older, retired couple, and they were just oohing and on over the kids, right, having a good time. And the old man looks and he's like, "Hey, have you ever heard of cable TV? Like that can kind of fix that problem." And I was like, I don't know the last time you've been up late enough to watch late night cable, but I think a couple of them are because of what was on cable TV. And he just turns red. He's like, "Oh my gosh." I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
Third time's a charm. Yes, my love. Absolutely.
Yeah. Big T is my third victim.
Don't worry, Don. We got the guys fishing trip coming up. We hear about all the truths about you, not these lies you feed everybody on the interwebs.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the only time you can get more than 3 words out of Big D is he's like, "Hey, Don's not here to beat me. I can talk out loud to people."
Yeah. I'm lucky number 3.
Yeah. Hey, they say lucky third, and I mean, I'm telling you that I live it every single day because I am definitely blessed.
It's 3 strikes and you're out.
Right. Yeah. At that point, I'm like, hey, I'm not.
Hey, so, Joseph, welcome in. Glad you're here.
Good to see you, Joseph. Yeah, it was always wild to see the number, like sometimes the different ratios of, and it always made me wonder, especially when I seen guys, I was like, I'm struggling, and yet you're a junior Marine and have, the same amount or more kids than I do. Like, but I had one guy that we were sergeants together, and we got talking the one day, and he's like, "Yeah," he goes, "I got 5," and I'm like, "Dude, I'm broke, and I got 4. Like, why 5?" And he's like, "Well, they had their first one, and then they wanted to have a second, but it was like they couldn't, so they had to go through like fertility stuff and doing all this. So they're going, well, then she ends up pregnant and has twins, and they're like, okay, you know what? We didn't bargain for twins, but 3, we're good at 3.
Yeah.
Well, then, hey, they don't go through anymore. They're like, nope, we're done. But they never got anything, corrected, fixed. She ends up pregnant again. Gives birth to another set of twins. And I'm like, please tell me you guys got, and they're like, yeah, no, we definitely, both of us went in and got the cut and snip and removal and everything that needed to happen at that point, because they're like, no, now we're at 5, we're not.
Yeah, Terry and I, that was a discussion we had when we were dating, and we both, it was almost at the same time, no, I don't want any more.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's good. 36 years.
Wow, congratulations.
He's either blind or lucky. Oh, wow.
Ooh, Robin, yeah. And that always seems to be the thing. Like, I've seen a lot, like, not always, I guess. Let me not say always, but it does seem kind of common sometimes, is like when they start getting on some of the fertility meds, and then it's all of a sudden like, boom, they're coming out with twins and triplets, and it's like, well, I guess the meds work, like
4 and 5 and 8, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
Could you imagine you're a brand new dad and your wife has triplets? I mean, it was scary enough to become a dad, because I'm speaking on behalf of a guy, and I was going, man, she told me she was pregnant, and I'm just like going, holy shit, we can barely take care of ourselves. And they don't come with instruction booklets at all.
No.
But the good thing with us is when we had our first son, Mike, he was born at Fort Polk, Louisiana. And when we got there, there was no housing available. because they would give you at least a 2-bedroom because she was pregnant. Okay, because if you're pregnant and you're so far along, they move you into at least a 2-bedroom. We were lucky they gave us a 3-bedroom when our names came up on the list. But before we did that, we stayed we rented a single wide trailer outside the back gate of Fort Polk, Alligator Lake Gate. Okay. And we lived in a freaking hillbilly, only paid $150 a month for this trailer. And I paid the water bill and I paid $150 and the electric bill. And I'm going, we got this brand new baby straight out the box, and neither one of us knows what the hell we're doing. But we were lucky that we had this old lady that lived next to us. And that baby started crying. And it was like the third night we were home. And she said, also we heard at the door, and I opened the door, and this lady just walks in. She goes, "You're having problems." And I said, "What?" She goes, that baby, you're not doing something for that baby. And I'm like going, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "Where's the baby at?" And took her into the baby's room and stuff. And she's the one that showed us how to wrap a baby up like a burrito, because they sleep better when they're restricted. It's like they're back in the womb. You know what I mean? And she taught us that. And then it was like parenting 101. And she was over there. As soon as the baby cried, she was knocking on the door. After a while, she just walked frick in, right? And one time she goes, "Your baby's constipated." And I'm going, "How do you know that?" She goes, I can tell. And I'm going, "Oh." And she goes, "Give me that baby." And she goes up there and moves all the dishes off the sink where you put the drying dishes, takes that, moves all that out of the way, puts a towel on the thing and lays the baby down. And she says, "Where's the booger sucker?" I said, if he's constipated, that's is that cool? And then she took some dishwashing liquid and she put a pan over there, made more lukewarm water in there, and she put a lot of that dishwashing soap in that thing, and she got the booger sucker, collapsed it, sucked water in there, and stuck it up his butt. And she kept doing that. Man, when that baby let loose, I had fecal matter all over the kitchen, and all I seen was he was giggling afterwards. And I go, "Wow, how are you supposed to know this stuff as new parents?" But we were blessed that we had this lady next to us. She taught us everything we needed to know about infants, And she goes, "Now, when he gets older, I can't help you because the way I took care of my kids is I took a switch to them. You may not want to do that." She goes, "But let me tell you something. It's a very effective parenting method. And don't be scared, Don't say, 'Well, I can't do it because I love them so much.' They will be bad people when they grow up." And she taught us all kinds of stuff, but I was blessed that we had her next to us. And then the second kid was like a piece of cake, because everything's already happened and it's in your memory banks and stuff like that. Yeah. But I will tell you that it is very true that women are I guess it's genetics or whatever. The high pitch, the baby cry wakes a woman up before it ever wakes us up. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. Like we actually, used to get in so much. I used to get in a lot of trouble about that.
Well, we're used to getting punched to tell you, hey, it's your turn. Because man, that was hard. The no sleep, the constant crying. And then Kevin came out and he didn't say a damn word. And then we told the doctor, I think Mikey was like, he was, formula and stuff like that because she didn't want to, she said, I don't want to breastfeed because it'll ruin my, she was so conscious about that. So he was on formula. And I mean, he was maybe a month or so old. And next thing you know, he was on a rice bottle, oatmeal bottle, and he would sleep for 12 freaking hours, because we'd feed him and we said, man, we just got done feeding him. She goes, it ain't enough. And she goes, don't be listening to them damn doctors. They don't know nothing, So, I mean, like I said, we learned a lot about that, but it was an experience. And then, sleep, it's one thing. And then you got to go, every morning you have to be in before 6 o'clock so you can do PT every morning. I showered in the gym so I didn't have to drive home. Trying to avoid, all that stuff. So it was bad. It was bad in the beginning, but you learn. You live and you learn.
Yeah, that was the big change. Like, I wasn't so nervous. Like, I mean, I was so young that I was like, man, this is way earlier in my life. But I ended up knowing I was going to have, yeah, I know. I see.
I still point forward even after breastfeeding.
The fun part is we've got some guests. Aunt Sherry and Uncle Bob came to visit the Ridge. And, of course, in this rain, they're not leaving anywhere because they came to visit on the old Gold Wing trike. So he's like, yeah, we're not heading to Oklahoma until this rain's done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're out on the outdoor kitchen out at the bar right now, and evidently the wine's flowing. So I'm not responsible for anything my wife says in the chat. But, yeah, I think having my own kid, the only thing that was strange was it was finally mine. I had babies, whether it was nieces, nephews, little cousins, baby, whatever they were. I, from the youngest of age, always had somebody's baby carrying them around. Like, went in and it was like, hey, give me that baby, and get it calmed down and have it. So, like, all of those things were not new to me when we had, when it was yours and you didn't get to give it away. I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean I gotta like do this all night long? Like, this is like a 2-hour thing. Like, here you go. Like, there's no. But the strange effect that it had was I went from being a super light sleeper my whole life till when my first child was born, the house would fall in. I had no idea it was falling in. Like, she's rolling me out of bed. It's your turn. And I'm like, I didn't even hear her. What do you mean? Yeah. And yeah, she's screaming in the other room. And I'm like, I didn't hear nothing. She's going to blame Aunt Sherry and Uncle Bob. I don't think so.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you something that when I deployed, I think the worst conditions that I ever lived in was in Bosnia. When we went to Bosnia, we deployed the day before Christmas in 1995, and they put us on buses and we rode on buses all the way. We railhead all our equipment to a place called Tazar, Hungary. Okay. And when we got to Hungary, it was in the wintertime. And I had never seen this much snow as it snows in the Balkans. I mean, it snows its butt off over there. Croatia, Hungary, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Serbia, all that stuff. And I will tell you that I was probably the most stricken by not that the country was torn apart and bullet holes in everybody's houses, but we were there to separate the Bosnian Muslims and the Serbs, the Bosnian Serbs that were killing each other. And of course, the Serbs were winning. And what got me the most was the children. And they would actually send the children to like our base camps and stuff like that. And the kids would come in there and be begging. And I mean, it was so bad. I mean, it hit as a father, it hurt me so bad to see the conditions these kids were living in. I mean, it was a war-torn country. And I couldn't imagine what it was like when soldiers, in World War II and stuff like that. But that's what got me the most. I can handle all the adult stuff and things like that, but children, being deployed and seeing the children, I mean, we got in trouble because we would write back and say, "Hey, send me candy or something like that," like hard candy, and we'd just throw it out the truck, and the kids would toss it, and then next thing you know, one of the kids ran out in front of a car and was crushed by a deuce and a half. So of course the military and all those people and that had to stop. And some people didn't stop. They got in trouble for it because they disobeyed a written order and yada, yada, yada. But I think that really tore at my heartstrings how, number one, how people can treat another person because of their religious beliefs, and who they are. They all spoke the same language, but yet a Serb could pick out a Muslim just the way they speak and vice versa. And every time we would go somewhere to talk to people about, we had to escort people out there to help improve the drinking water. And there's a lot of humanitarian things that goes with that. And the military is not good at peacekeeping. We really suck at that. We're really good at, search and destroy, force on force, and stuff like that. But when it comes to peacekeeping, we're not good at it. Okay, American military has a soft spot for the children when they go into these countries, and it can be a detriment to you. You never know. But we had the kids out there, and the kids would, I seen a kid go like this, in the middle of the road. And we had to stop the convoy, and then the kid took some cardboard, and he was walking out there and he was dropping it on the road, and they were all landmines, and the kids knew where they all were.
Oh, we figured that out pretty quick in Afghanistan. Was it was kind of that same effect, right? You're driving down, you're going through some of the villages that hadn't been abandoned or destroyed and evacuated, and that's what it was these kids lined up. The adults would stay back, and it was almost like and then you watch, but those kids coming in, I as a father, it was like that's the hardest thing, and seeing these kids and the conditions they have to live in, but we also realized that they were a really good resource for information as to where a lot of the adults would be afraid whether Taliban was going to get them or somebody else seen, but the kids didn't have that fear. They were too young to understand it, but they knew like, hey, they weren't allowed to go play in that area, and this is why, or they'd spotted. And so, it was kind of bribery in a way, but it was bribery for our own safety. Like we, They didn't order us not to throw it, but we were warned, probably for incidents like you talked about, um, not to throw food from the trucks. But we were tossing all kinds of stuff, and we just made sure we cleared it off the road so they didn't have to get into the traffic. Um, because when we would get set up somewhere, they were the best resource for information and keeping us safe, because they knew, hey, every time these guys come in, they're giving us food or candy or whatever. They're going to treat us. So we're going to make sure they're good. We want them to keep coming back.
Yeah. I mean, it is some of the, um, some of my worst memories, were just looking at starving children, you know, that was something. Out of everything that I've done, that is the memory that sticks with me the most emotionally. I can handle all the physical stuff and stuff like that, but it was the memories of watching these children, and then children whose parents have been killed and nobody's taken them in because it's hard enough to feed what you got. And these kids, they're sleeping in rubble, with the oldest kid trying to take care of all the younger kids, and stuff like that. So, I mean, we did things we weren't supposed to do, because you'd go in there and you'd have your trash and all that stuff, and in the middle of the night you'd hear stuff outside, and the kids, because we had to throw the bags of trash on top of one of the service and support groups trucks, and then they would haul it somewhere. And then I had the detail with my platoon to collect all out of the base camp, and our escort would take us out there, and you'd see dozens, if not hundreds, of kids in these landfills ripping the bags apart, trying to find something that the soldiers wouldn't eat, like fruitcake in an MRE.
Right.
I don't know a lot of people that would eat that. I mean, a lot of people like fruitcake, but not the one that comes in the MREs. And the kids they'd have a frown on their face, but they would be eating it, and that all by itself was bad. But that's my worst memories of being deployed, is watching what kids have to go through.
And I think you bring up a good point, because I was just going through some pictures and stuff. We were sitting in here, and I was going through showing Uncle Bob some stuff, and be like, hey, here was from this deployment, here was from that deployment. And it really triggers the memories when you've seen, because I seen some of the pictures, and I tried to replace what was going on in that moment when I took the picture, other than whatever the picture was. But every one of those kids, I knew what was going on that day. Like, just seeing that picture, bringing it back, and knowing, and like the group of kids, when was it? It would have been 2008 when we were over there. We basically ran a village for like 4 months. Didn't leave that area. And so we built a good rapport with the locals that, weren't Taliban, because they know we were there to protect them. We had soccer tournaments with the kids. Like, that was, we put Guardian Angel Watch. It's like we weren't totally, because, the upper echelon command, of course, when they would fly a drone over and they see us out there with no gear on playing soccer, of course, there was some not choice words that came down and told us how we were, a bunch of soup sandwiches and what were we doing, blah, blah, blah. But what they didn't see and pay attention to was we had security all around us. And, we staged our gun trucks in a position that everything was safe. So we had that time, because we knew to build that rapport with those kids, they were going to give us better intel and keep us safe, because they wanted to be safe. And we fed them well, like, gave them money where they could go to the local market guy. And we actually we had my platoon specifically had a really good relationship with the guy that owned the local market. And I mean, we got supplies after supplies after supplies, because, well, there's only so many MREs you're willing to eat. So it was one of those that, hey, he can get us some non-MRE food, real local food, that kind of stuff. and we were able to help provide some of that because, yeah, a lot of them, like you said, you know, it was like their homes were destroyed. They didn't have anything. You know, parents may have been, you know, taken out. So it was like, what do these kids have other than the other kids that are around them?
Yeah.
And they don't know, you know what I mean? They're so young. They don't know what we're doing there necessarily. I think the hardest part is putting yourself, right? When I seen it, all I seen was my kids and imagining like they're back in the States. They're in AC. They're clean. They're going to schools. They're well fed. Like, what if that was one of my kids standing on the side of the street like that?
Yeah.
You know, and it's a hard brain focus to try to stay focused when you start thinking that. And it got to the point I had to force myself not to think of it. And I always carried, you know, I did the stereotypical, right? I had pictures of my kids taped on the dash of my truck. That way, when I was out on a mission, I was doing anything, I could always, in that moment that maybe my mind would drift, I could look down, see them, knew I needed a focus to get back to them. And yeah, you could just keep going on your mission, and you had to do that. You had to find that trigger point. But
Yeah.
seeing those pictures last night, yeah, it definitely triggered that emotion in that moment of seeing them. And then the questions, right? You're in Afghanistan. You don't expect to see a blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid run around with all these, and you're like, you know, but history, you go back and learn the history of it and realize, well, yeah, the Russians tried to come in here once before. That's where the blonde-haired blue-eye came from. And, you know, but that gene was still so strong, several generations later, that they're still little kids running around.
Yeah, same thing that we seen in Turkey during Operation Just Cause. No, it was Operation Provide Comfort. In Turkey, when we went up there, again, when you've got 1 million plus people up in the mountains and you're trying to feed these people, when we first went in there, we would take all the food and put it in 25,000 pound cargo nets, and then we would sling load it with a Black Hawk, and we were putting it on the ground, and then we had people that would fast rope out of the Black Hawk, and then they would unhook everything, and then we would lift up on one side, and then it would all spill over. It was all canned foods and things like that, MREs and canned food when we first got there. I think they shipped over all the old tea rations. If you remember the tea rations, where it was like it would feed a squad.
Yeah.
It could have Salisbury steak in there. It could have whatever, mashed potatoes, blah, blah, blah. And you'd put it in boiling water and let it boil. And then you'd open it up. And then, of course, they had the big puddings and stuff like that. And that's what we started feeding these people with. Well, when we first did our first mission, and I was the rappel master on the first mission that we went out on, and they were just swarming on us like ants, and people were holding on to the cargo net to get out of there, and all kinds of stuff was going on. So we said, hey, we can't do this. Okay. So we would hover, set it down there. They would release the hook on the Black Hawk, and we'd leave the net there and everything, and then get the heck out of there. Yeah. So the Army was shipping over cargo nets in 40-foot mill vans, okay? Because you've got to imagine feeding over 1 million people every single day. And then they would take the nets and stake them down over a low spot, and they would use them like hammocks because there's not that much stretch to them, and they would stretch them out, and families would be sleeping on these things. And I mean, we dropped thousands of those things. And then after a while, the kids started getting sick up in the mountains because there wasn't a place for someone to go to the bathroom. So they would defecate and pee right there outside their tent. And it was like every morning and stuff, it was like a river of urine going down underneath everybody's places or through their tents or whatever they had. And they started getting sick. So we had to bring in a medical battalion. And then, of course, we had to drop those people off out there with an escort and start treating people. And it was just a mess. And then they would, we were flying over, and I said, well, we flew over this one part, and there was a bunch of people there, and they were digging a hole. And the people who had died or whatever, they would put them as a group. If they were a family or whatever, they would bury them right there, right outside their tent, because there's no place to go, you know. Yeah. And it was a trying time to see what people had to do to survive. And I couldn't imagine if NATO did not send a task force in there, because the Turks weren't going to take care of them. You know, the Turks weren't going to take care of them. So I don't know what would have happened or how many more people would have died because of that. And then the snow came in. Man, when the snow came in, I mean, it was crazy. But we did, Navy Seabees did build a base camp. They came in, and it was a couple of miles away, and they put GP mediums up on wooden frames and stuff like that. And then once they got this tent city built, that's when the interpreters went in there and said, hey, this compound is complete. And they guided them down there, and we got them out of the mountains and into this tent city. And of course, it still wasn't enough room and stuff like that. So it was war is an ugly, ugly thing.
Yeah.
And you see the highlights and stuff like that, but what service members see on the ground is nothing what they report back to the world.
No.
Because it is a hard thing to swallow, to watch stuff like that. And then you come back to the States and, the States, I don't get this and I don't get that. And you haven't seen hell until you watch stuff like that. And then you hear people complain, you know, we're not the greatest country on the earth and blah, blah, blah. I said, you need to take a visit. You need to get out and see what the real world's all about. So, and could you imagine what the Ukraine is like and what the people are going through there?
I mean, like you said, after seeing what we've seen on the deployments that we've gone on in the different areas, and I mean, clearly you did a lot more in that aspect, which is awesome. I honestly thought that I was going to get a better chance of doing stuff like that while I was in, just because of stories from like my uncle and my cousin and all them that were in before me. Unfortunately, just my MOS, the job that I went into, that wasn't a possible thing, which did kind of suck.
Yeah.
You never want to see the misery, but I tell you, it makes you appreciate what you do have. And those more little things, you know, funny, we were talking just last night about this because, you know, my beautiful bride making her food like she does, decided, you know, yesterday was like taco day. We're going to have burritos. We're going to have tacos. We're going to have quesadillas. I mean, we had full Mexican night last night. And I made dinner. We went out on the back porch. We were sitting on the table. It was nice. And I went to grab this flower pot that was sitting on the table just so that we could see each other better. What I didn't realize was once I did that, the hole in the bottom was going to leak all this water of this like flower juice. And it went right over my burrito. And I set it on the floor. And I'm like, well, there was some sauce I didn't expect I was going to have to eat. And
Yeah.
kind of poured a little bit off and just got to eat. And of course,
Yeah.
Bob ate Sherry, and they're like, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure you've ate a whole lot worse in a whole lot more countries. I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, I know where all this came from. I'm fine. Like, what's a little bit of flower juice on your burrito? Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to tell you, I seen grown men on deployments, just tear up, seeing some of the things. I mean, you train and you train. And then when you do deploy and you see what you see when you're deployed, there's a lot of tough people that are brought to their knees when they actually, because, you can train and you don't know. It's still raining outside. It's pouring. How it's going to affect you mentally. Okay. Physically, you're ready to go. You're ready to deploy. You're loading up, and until you get on the ground and you see what war does to countries, what it does to people, and what they have to do to survive. I mean, it will emotionally screw you up. Okay. You don't have to be shot. You don't have to be, incoming artillery. None of that stuff has to happen for it to mentally screw you up to a certain degree, if you will. So.
Yeah. Good to see Jonesy make it in here and out back to his main.
Did he change his channel name again, or is this another channel?
No, that's another one. He's got like 1,100 of them.
1,100?
Yeah.
Now, hey, let's talk about pre-deployment. How much did you enjoy the Gamma Goblin shot in your butt right before you get on the frickin' plane and you're setting on a fucking chicken egg in your butt cheek? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
does somebody have stock on this stuff? Because every time we deployed, and you have to take it within 24 hours of going into country, they shoot you up with this stuff is like honey. That's how thick it is.
Yeah.
And they actually use a large gauge needle. The first time I got mine, we were going to Desert Storm. The first time I got that one, and there was 2 people. You go behind this curtain, they say, drop your drawers. I said, okay. And there was the doctor. He had this needle, and I'm going, holy crap. It's like, on the movies, you go, how come they have to use such a big needle? And then they stick it all the way in, and you're going, are they putting it into the bone marrow? What the hell are they doing? But they had this big old thing, and it was a big fat syringe, and there was a nurse there, and I dropped my pants, and he goes, this is going to hurt. I go, what? And then all of a sudden that nurse smacks me on my butt, just whack. And then he jammed that thing in there. And I look back, and he had a hold of that thing in one hand, and he had his palm there trying to squeeze that stuff in there. And I'm like going, what the heck? Dude, and I had a bubble on my butt. And then, because we were at Frankfurt, Rhine, Main, when we were deploying, and then we had to get on a plane. What was that? Ryanair, and we had our bags in between our legs. We had our weapon. We had all that stuff right there, and I swear, I'm pretty sure that plane was leaning to one side because nobody wanted to set on that Gamma Goblin shot that you got in your ass.
Yeah. Well, and that I think that was the crazy part, was like the amount of like inoculations, vaccinations. I don't know what all they gave us, right? Like pre this, pre that, like go in. because I was pretty sure we got every shot known to man when you went through basic training. You
Yeah.
walked down the gauntlet of needles where like every person was ding, 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 and you just got stabbed. And then of course they're like, oh, here's the good one right in your ass. And then they're like, good, now sit down, you know, Indian style and start rocking because you need to move it around. And of course, the guys that didn't do it, you know, you've seen them, they're like, I don't need to rock. And there's like, yeah, they were limping for 3 days. And,
Yeah.
you know, and then all of a sudden you do a pre-deployment and then, yeah, you're in and they're like, oh, well, now you need this, 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 and this. And then, oh, well, we're going to, and I'm like, what? Like, I don't think we could catch anything. Like, we have so much chemical, everything injected at us. I was like, why do I need any more?
Well, there were certain shots you had to get way ahead of time because you would probably get sick, you know. And then I remember we had to take those. I can't remember what they were called. They were tablets that you had to take. And I don't know. I can't for the life of me. I can't remember what they were for. But we had to take one every 12 hours.
Yeah, you had like there was one was like doxycycline, and then something else. There was, I do remember having to take, like, they gave you, everybody got a bottle of pills, and they're like, hey, you have to take this for X amount of days before you can go.
Well, wasn't one of them a malaria pill?
I think, yeah, I want to say it was like there was an anti-malaria, and then, like, of course, for me, like, so I wasn't old enough, right, to get the smallpox, at, you know, at that young of age. So right before, I think it was actually before Iraq, in 03, yeah, we all had to go through and do the whole, and then they're like, hey, don't be around any of your wife or children, like, keep it covered. But, and I'm like, well, I got a wife and 2 kids at home. This ought to be fun. And they're like, don't let her touch anything. And
yeah, you can't touch the smallpox.
Yeah, so you know that made it interesting because, like, as a married guy that I live downtown, like all my stuff's there, like how, like, so yeah, we get home and it was like, hey, we got to sanitize, like rubber gloves, everything. And
well, you remember in elementary school when I went, they had these chrome guns, and you would come up and they'd get you, and that's why you have the scar. That's the smallpox scar. And they'd shoot you with it. And then, of course, your arm, after a while, was everybody's walking around with their arm hanging down and stuff like that. And I remember doing that. And then when I was over in Korea, they were looking through my medical records, and I got an email from the Troop Medical Center saying, hey, you, even though I was a civilian, but I was forward deployed over in Korea, I had to go in and I had to get another smallpox shot because it'd been, you know, freaking whenever I was in elementary school,
right.
They said you need another one. And that one hurt just as bad as the first one, but this time they put it in a needle, and what they do is they take your skin, they lift it up and they slide it into the skin, and then they shoot it up in your arm. Well, then that turns into a big white pussy looking, and then it turns black, and then after a while it falls off.
Yeah, it was nasty. But that was the thing, because I remember as a kid seeing, you know, like my mom, my aunts, uncles, everybody, they all had like the Notorious, right? The little scar. And I'm like, really? Like, I've gone my whole life without having that scar. I got every other scar that you could possibly get, you know, up until this point in my life. And now I've got to get, but I never did end up with getting that smallpox scar.
Really?
Which, you know, they said that, hey, sometimes you won't, because I actually went back to medical. It was talking to the corpsman because I'm like, hey, you know, I did the whole protocol, like, but now I'm worried because I don't have the permanent scar. Like, this thing healed up. And they're like, well, you just must have healing skin. And I'm like, well, fortunately I do. You know, I don't bruise. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. So it was like, to not have it, though, made me nervous because I'm like, I don't want to go through that. That was way too tedious.
Yeah.
of like being safe, doing all this, and then
Yeah, one of them was for typhoid.
yeah, I'm trying to. There was so much. So going into, I seen Denise had put that on there. Yeah, it was like going to Iraq the first time. 12 shots, a smallpox vaccination. You're doing it. There was so much stuff I honestly couldn't tell you. But then you brought up the pills, and I was like, oh yeah, we did. And actually, we had to take them for quite a while in country.
Yeah.
Because it was like you start your dose here, but because it has to go like so long, and I just there was so much because yeah, you train, right? They try to prepare you, but you're never actually fully trained and prepared for like the mental load you're going to get when you get there, especially when it's your first time. I mean, after a couple times, if you've gone back to the same place, some things are different here and there, right? Improvements on security or whatever. But you pretty much know the deal. You're going to know the weather, the terrain isn't unfamiliar, that kind of thing. But them first, second, maybe even sometimes third time going over, you're like, for me, it was my brain was a blur. I'm like, I don't know half of what they made me take. Because was it the anthrax vaccination that I think they gave us?
Yeah.
And
The anthrax was the one when they gave it to you, they give you the shot, and then you just go, huh? And then all of a sudden you go, holy smokes. It was like somebody put the tip of an iron on your skin. I'm going, and that just deadened your freaking arm. You didn't even want to freaking move that thing, the anthrax.
Yeah. But I giggled when they did it because like I had donated blood before, did all, that wasn't a new thing, but then when I got to, I was in Lejeune as my first duty station, and all of a sudden I heard people talking about going out and they were donating plasma. And I'm like, what is this? I've never, what is this? Well, then, so I asked a couple people, I'm like, what's with this donating plasma thing? What's the benefit? And they're like, oh yeah, you go out there, you sit in this, lay in this table or this chair, and they hook you up and they pay you to do it. Well, come to find out, a lot of people were going out and they were donating it, for either extra money or, they were broke. Hey, this is how they did it. Or that's where some of them went out and that's how they got their drug money. And, but when they did, I want to say it was the anthrax one, like they actually came out in a battalion formation, was like, hey, everybody's getting this vaccination. And we're going to tell you, go get your, you got to wait. I don't know, it was 4 or 5 days, something. And then they're like, go out to the plasma clinic and donate. And we're like, they're telling us to do this? Like, they kind of discouraged it because they said that that was only for, drug people to go get their drug money. And they're like, no. There's so many more, so I actually did some research on donating the plasma, and it was actually for a good cause, and I mean, but because we got that, you got like double or triple what the normal pay was.
Yeah.
So they're like, and I was like, hell, I got to wipe.
How often can I come back?
I went out a couple different 2-3 times and did it. I'm like, hey,
Now, I know that Japanese encephalitis, I had to have that before I got on. I had to have it done before I went into Korea. That's one of the mandatory shots you have to have before you even, when they send you over. And I went over there as civilian, and that was on my checklist when they hired me over there. I had to get that Japanese encephalitis shot. So
I never.
I mean, I think I have 6 complete shot records with inoculations on. And they can put a lot of shots on, and I have all that. And then when we went to, and we were, stirring shit and all that stuff, when you were on the roster, they had a roster, and we had to go in and get our hepatitis B vaccination series. And it's a series of 3 shots. You get 1 shot, and then you wait 2 weeks. You get the second shot, then you have to wait a month or whatever, and then you got your 3rd one. So and you couldn't. Of course, people were going, and to get out of the shit stirring detail. Let me see your shot record, because you had to carry it on you. You know, we had to have it with us, part of our flat vest inspection. We had to have one of those, our shot records with us at all times. And they're going, get your ass over there and start stirring. You've already had it.
Well, that would have been nice to know, because that wasn't an option for me when we had to go burn it. That question never came up, not a once. They're just like, you, and you.
Yeah.
You're on shit stirring detail. Which I think I know I've told this before, but yeah, the one time that I did have to do it was my gunny, the maintenance chief. He said, "Hey, I was in Desert Storm and I had to burn shit as a private, and well, y'all are NCOs, and I know you've never had to do it. So guess what? He pulled all the Lance Corporal PFCs and stuff off that detail that day, and every one of us NCOs had to go over there, and we were on the shit stirrer detail.
Yeah,
but
I hated that stuff.
It was
I hated that shit.
Right, literally. It was like, what do you mean we gotta? But you know, and the thing was, we made so much fun of it. Like it's literally a shitty detail. But
literally,
right. But why go over there and be pissed off about it? Why be upset? Why be kicking the dirt and moaning? So we started spray painting like pretty images and saying funny sayings on every one of the barrels before we would put them back in. Like, we're laughing and giggling at one another. Like, hey, how long can you have that one burning on the end of your stick? And it just completely gross to the normal civilian. And we probably lost half our audience right now. But you're in a bad spot. What are you supposed to do? Like, just make it happen. It's not, it makes you glad for a flushing toilet when you get back to the States, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hey, well, guys, that's our hour. I want to thank everybody for coming in. Remember, we do an open mic story time once a month. It's usually the third Tuesday in the month. So I want to thank everybody for coming in. We'll always put that link up there so you can come in and share your stories with us. One thing I did want to say, prayers still needed for Dana Mason. They did find out what was wrong with her. They are treating her for that. I'm not going to get into the details about that. But prayers out for her. And then Terry is going in for surgery on the 29th. So she'll be up in Muskogee at St. Francis Hospital. So she'll be going in there, and hope everything goes good for her. So please say a prayer for her. And guys, we absolutely love you guys. Thanks for coming in. Remember, be kind to one another, help somebody in need, and always think of that. Brother?
Absolutely. Just like my battle buddy said, guys, every week in and out, you just amaze us in your support and coming out here. We're going to request that you keep pushing us out. Get us out there. We want to see more of you in here. We love seeing every single one of you in here week in and week out. Want to start seeing some new names. Let's add to the conversation. Let's add people in to get more people doing this. As always, yes, thoughts and prayers are out with Tim and Dana and the whole family over there for you, battle buddy, and your bride. And you need something come Monday. We're all praying that it's going to be perfect, but let us know what's going on. Keep us updated, and you need something, we're there. So
all right, I appreciate that.
Thank all of you. Keep sharing this out. We appreciate you. And we need this, guys. I missed it last week. I really did. And I could tell all week long that I didn't get this weekly therapy session. So I appreciate you all. Thanks.
All right, guys, we love you. God bless you. We'll see you on the next video. Bye, guys.
Bye now. Woohoo! Beer time.